Morning. So, it's the day before the inauguration. See what Trump's got up his sleeve. I think he's probably got some pardons he'll announce today, but honestly, I think Trump's basically been totally neutered in Washington. He's got no support up there. I guarantee you they're threatening him and his family with something to make sure that he doesn't pull any stunts on the way out that would expose some of the deep state any more than he already has. I'd be shocked if he pardons like Julian Assange or Edward Snowden. I just think they're threatening him with criminal prosecution, maybe physical harm to him or his kids or something. I just haven't seen a lot of action, in his last few days here to lead me to believe he's going to make any big moves on the way out. And the only justification I can see for that is that, he's been threatened. Because he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. He usually, so far hasn't really cared about that stuff. But I think it's all hands on deck to make sure Trump doesn't, make any more waves on the way out. So I don't look for much coming from Trump here on this last day. But, seeing this National Guard and these active troops up in D.C. is just incredible. I mean, we all can see the hypocrisy when Trump was trying to send in the Guard into Minneapolis, into Portland, and a whole bunch of cities this summer to protect a courthouse or just to protect the people of those communities. And the Pelosi's and, all the rest of the left were calling the Guard stormtroopers and Trump's personal military and all this stuff. And here they are, they're vetting these National Guardmen, 25,000 maybe National Guard troops up in D.C. to protect the political class from the people. That's all it is. They're vetting these Guard troops, the FBI is, to see if they're Trump supporters or not. That's exactly what authoritarian dictatorships do. That's exactly what the Chinese Communist Party does. That's exactly what North Korea does. Iran. They vet their military to make sure there's nobody on the inside that's going to turn on them. It's amazing. And of course the media goes right along with it. Oh, well, yeah, that's understandable, and you don't want any of these crazy Trump supporters near the new administration. If we had a fair media in this country, things would be a lot different. They know that. They've made a decision to basically subvert the will of a majority of the country. There's no plan, guys. There's no Q plan. The military is definitely there to protect Joe Biden, to protect the political elite class of this country. They want to put a permanent wall around the Capitol to protect the lawmakers from the people of the country. They don't like a wall on the southern border to protect the people from illegal immigrants flooding over. We got a caravan heading up from Honduras, Guatemala and Mexico. They've been trying their best to turn these people around or not let them in the country, but they're coming. And they're coming because Joe Biden said he would give amnesty to however many million people show up. And of course, Biden's going to turn course and he's just going to piss off everybody, but the media is going to protect him. Everybody thinks that, the military, they're so patriotic, they couldn't ever do any unconstitutional thing. Or you got to understand, it's these militant organizations, whether it's police or fire department, the military, they have a very strict chain of command, and it's very compartmentalized. And the reason for that is to give a group or a person one specific job. and you don't think about the outcome. You don't think about what the bigger plan is. You just focus on your particular job. If it's to build a widget for a helicopter, you don't think about the whole helicopter. You think about that one piece that helps the propeller spin. Or if your job is to protect a sidewalk in Washington, D.C., you don't think about why you're protecting it or who you're protecting it for or whatever. Your job is to not let anybody down that sidewalk. And you got a weapon to make sure of it. Speaking of which, we traveled to D.C. One of our friends is a retired National Guard member, and he said 99% of National Guard members do not have loaded weapons to prevent, mishaps, because they're, I don't want to say they're untrained. They're certainly trained, but they're a lot less trained than the rest of the military. So most of those weapons those guys are holding up there in D.C. aren't even loaded. But it's that compartmentalization of these organizations that keeps people in line. That, and they hold things like a good retirement plan or an okay salary or medical benefits for you and your family for the rest of your life. They hold that over your head. You will bend the constitutionality of what you're doing based on what's good for you and your family. And we see this with law enforcement. We see it with military. They don't stand there with a copy of the Constitution going, well, my commander said to do this, but the Constitution says this. No, they're doing what their commander says. How often do you hear of a story of people breaking rank or breaking free from an order in a police station or a police department or in the military? It very rarely happens. Of course it does happen, and when it does, they're exiled. When they get you in a group of people, a group of your peers, people are way less willing to act on what they may consider right or wrong. They're going to go with the flow. And that's what we see with the military up there. I'll bet, 60 or 70% of those guys and gals are Trump supporters, but they're there doing a job. They're not there leading a politically motivated, or their political ideology is not and shouldn't be part of their job of what they're doing up there. So it's a very clear sign of the political elite in the United States using the military to protect themselves from the people. It's just blatant. They don't care anymore. They don't care how bad it looks. They don't care what people think. We've basically given the keys to the Ferrari to children. Could you imagine giving your keys to your 5-year-old kid to drive you to town? Well, that's exactly what's going to happen right now with this country. Kamala Harris, she's not even bright. She's not inspiring. She's not that smart. There's nothing admirable about these people. And they're going to be in charge. At least Trump, I know he rubbed people the wrong way. I know he didn't speak he wasn't very articulate with the way he spoke. He's a normal guy. But he's proven himself in the business world, and I know he had some failures, but all in all, he was a extremely successful business guy. He was able to brand himself very well and sell basically his name. At least he had that going for him. And it seemed like he had common sense, and he was a patriot and cared about the country. This new group offers none of that. They're social justice idiots worried about 5% of the population that gets pissed off when the wind blows the wrong way. So we basically given the keys to the Ferrari to children, and you better buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Who knows what they have in store for us? What I'm hoping is they do what politicians normally do, which is not much. They go on TV and make sure that people like the way their hair looks, and they bloviate about a bunch of nonsense, and they go back to their country club. If we can get that for 4 years, we'll be in good shape. I fear that probably not going to happen. I think Trump scared them into tightening the reins on the people. They saw what it looked like when people were awake and aware of what was going on and aware of the corruption. And that scared the political class. So I fear that they're coming in with some overreach, but we'll see. So much like when people went into the Capitol building and you saw the politicians, running and screaming and hiding under desks and terrified to speak to the people. Yesterday they're having they're practicing for the inauguration. I'm at a loss for the right word here, but so they're up there practicing what they're going to do for the inauguration, and there's a homeless camp somewhere in DC, and some guy lights a newspaper on fire, so they got to clear the whole thing. They're just pants shitters. Their feet are not on the ground. They're not in touch with reality. They've never been held accountable for their decisions or their actions. They've never held a real job with real world consequences in their life. They've never had to budget, balance a checkbook or save for tomorrow. They've never had to do any of this stuff. So when something small happens, like a guy lights a newspaper on fire, they all freak out. They all got to run and hide and go, the military, please save us. It's just, these people are the worst. They represent the worst of this country. They're scared of everything. And now they have the ability to wield the largest, most powerful military in the world to protect them. And they're going to do it. They have no filter. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care. They will legislate their way around the Constitution. They read the Constitution and figure out how to manipulate it. Whereas, we the people read the Constitution as a concrete founding document that needs to be abided by. They just figure out how to work around it. So, seeing the National Guard up there and the hypocrisy, especially after them getting on Trump for wanting to send 100 troops to protect the federal courthouse in Portland and all these other places, is just absurd. I have no faith in the federal government right now. I mean, every branch of this government, every organization, the FBI, the DOJ, they've just proven that they think that white supremacy is the biggest problem facing this country, and it's unbelievable. It's a media-created phenomenon. Sorry, I had to look out for a car there. So yeah, they're just they legislate off fairy tales, and we're gonna pay the price at the end. These people have never worked a real job in their life. They get terrified of everything. That's why they run around Washington with 2 masks on their face and a face shield, and they need the military to come in and save them from 10 people in the Capitol. And then people go in the Capitol, and then they decide, well, they're not going to argue the case why they were there because people came in the Capitol. If the Founding Fathers were in there legislating on something and people came in the Capitol building, the Founding Fathers would have shot them and got back to work. But these people, they can't handle it. They're not leaders. We need inspiring leadership in this country that is willing to use common sense and what's good for the people as a whole, not 5 or 10% that are kicking and screaming. And then, when our movement does kick and scream, what do? They put us all in jail. They call in 30,000 troops to shut us up. It's like, protect yourself from this federal regime. We're going to need it. Get in contact with your local sheriff. And the problem is even with the local rank and file, is they're worried about the same things that the military and the National Guard are worried about. You get a cop that's 20 years in and he's got 4 years left for a 6-figure pension and health benefits the rest of his life and notoriety because they're gonna do what their leadership tells them to do almost every single time. I would say 1 out of 10,000 times maybe they won't follow an order that they don't agree with, and then they get held accountable. They're not going to lose their pension that they've worked so hard for because your feelings are hurt. This is not going to happen. So we got to give up on the Q, trust the plan. It's just not true, guys. And I've talked about this before. I hope and pray it doesn't turn into, well, trust, it was trust Q's plan, but now it's trust God's plan, and God wants Trump and all this. Yes, of course God has a plan, but it's just so esoteric. You have to not trust any plan. You have to trust what you can accomplish and what you can do to change things. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see if Trump gets some pardons in today. I would love to see him pardon Julian Assange. Edward Snowden, that's a different story. Assange revealed government crimes, not government secrets, and Edward Snowden did too. So we'll see if Trump's got the chutzpah to go out on a limb and do that. But I really fear that they're holding something over his head, and we'll never know about it. Just don't start hating on Trump on the way out because he doesn't pardon who you want him to pardon. So I hope him and his family are safe. And I hope the deep state doesn't go after him, but they're going to. And that'll be a sad day. You got 80-something million people in this country that relate to Trump, and they really love the guy. And if they end up just putting him in jail for some nonsense, boy, that's going to be a death blow to the Trump movement. But the Q folk and the regular conservatives, you got to give up on the Q stuff. It's not true. There's no plan, and we got to plan for the future. So we need to be a united front, much like the Democrats. When it comes time to legislate, those Democrats vote 100% every single time, and the conservatives are not like that. Mainly because they're principled people and they stand on what they truthfully believe, not necessarily what the party believes as a whole. But to combat this leftist socialist movement, we're going to have to be a united front, even if we don't agree with each other 100% of the time, much like the left does. So just some words of wisdom. Let go of the Q stuff. Don't take it personal if somebody says you're crazy for trusting the plan and all that. It's over. There's no plan. We just got to do what's best moving forward. Y'all have a good day.